welcome to Fret Dojo. My name's Greg. I'm an Australian guitarist that teaches American music in a Japanese themed set. This video is going to be a bit of a continuation on our last jazz guitar lesson where I talked about using the whole tone scale to improvise over dominant chords. In today's video though, we're going to have a look at using the same scale, but this time over minor chords, which is a pretty outside sound, but it can work really well if you know how to use it wisely. Okay, let's go to a close-up. Just before we begin, if you would like a PDF of the scale patterns that I'm using in this video and the various exercises that I cover, you can click the link below this video and enter your details and I can send that to you. Okay, let's briefly revise the whole tone scale pattern first. This is the same one that I covered in the last video, and I'm going to use the 3-note per string pattern that's on your PDF. So let's just play that together now just to get acquainted with the sound of this quite unusual scale. Here we go. 3 and 4 and. Okay, so let's not get too caught up in all the theory and everything just yet. Let's just see what this whole tone scale sounds like over a minor chord. So I've picked A minor. Let's put that on my looper pedal now. And let's just play this scale up and down over the looper pedal. And I might do a little bit of improvisation after that. Let's see what it sounds like. And then after that, I'm going to break it down for you and show you how this can work. Okay, so there's my looper. Here we go. A 1, 2, 3, 4. And backwards, 2, 3, 4. Now let's do a bit of improvising using that scale. Okay, so as you can hear, this is a pretty wacky sound. And did you notice when I was improvising over it, sometimes it worked and sometimes it kind of didn't. Now, when you're using this whole tone scale over minor chords, you have to be a little bit careful because the intervals are very outside, a lot of the intervals. There's only a couple which are kind of inside intervals on this scale. And so as long as you land on an interval that's pretty good sounding with the chord, then it sounds really interesting and kind of wild, and then you sort of get that tension release. But if you kind of land on a very dissonant sounding tone, then it can not work so well. So let me show you a way to navigate this scale and kind of the reason why this scale works anyway. So a common scale choice in jazz over minor chords is melodic minor. Okay, so let's say I've got this A minor chord. Let's see what A melodic minor sounds like. Okay, so I might play it up the octave. Okay, now let's have a look at how that melodic minor scale is constructed. I'll play it up the string so it's a bit more obvious. So let's start on the A on the 2nd fret. You just watch me, you don't need to really play this, just follow along. So we've got, starting from here, we've got a tone, and then a semitone, a tone, a tone, a tone, a tone, and then one semitone to finish the scale. So, as I was talking about in the previous video, make sure that you watch that in case you haven't already. The link should be in the description of this one. A whole tone scale is comprised of whole tones, i.e. 2 frets at a time. A whole tone scale would sound like this. But if we look at the melodic minor scale, like that's kind of a bit of a mix of things. But if we go from this note going up, with the exception of the last note, most of that scale is whole tones. Okay, so that's why this kind of scale choice of using a whole tone scale can work. because it's very closely related to melodic minor. But now here's the next challenge, is how do we know where to start the scale? You know, this is a pretty easy scale to play because it just repeats 2 frets at a time. But how do we know if it's supposed to be the one that, say, starts on D here, or the one that starts 1 fret up, the sort of the other one on E flat? So it can really bend your brain, this stuff. So don't worry too much, but the long and the short of it is that you can either play a whole tone scale 1 fret below the tone of the minor chord you're on, or from the 5th of the minor chord you're on. Both of those would work, and there's probably other ways to think of this as well. Okay, so let's try to improvise with this whole tone scale again now, and this time I'm going to try to focus on the tones in this scale that will work with that minor chord. Most of the tones should sound okay. It's mainly, I don't want to land on the B flat, and probably not linger too much on the G sharp. So they're kind of the notes to not play so much, or at least play through to end up on a nice sounding tone. Okay, so I'm going to try this little bit of improvising again, and let's see if I can make it sound a bit better now. Okay, so as you can hear, if you're careful with it and make sure that you try to land on, good sounding tones at the ends of phrases, then it can work pretty well. Now, let's have a listen to what this would sound like over, a typical jazz standard. I'm going to choose So What because it has a very long minor chord in that tune. So I'm not going to exclusively stick to this whole tone scale. I'm just going to throw it in here and there, and that's where it probably works the best. It's more like a special effect. You can hear how it's very overbearing, this kind of sound, if you just focus on that in a solo, but if you throw it in as a bit of a nice splash of color, it can work wonderfully. Okay, so I'll fire up the backing track now and let's give this one a go. So there you have it, the whole tone scale over minor chords. A bit tricky, but it can work if you're careful. Now make sure that you download the PDF below this video to get the whole tone scale written out for you so you can practice it at home, and make sure that you subscribe to my channel if you'd like to find out when my next videos come out, and I've got a lot of exciting ones planned coming up on this channel. Okay, well, without further ado, my name's Greg O'Rourke, and as always, thanks for watching.